Right now on Politics Now, gun background checks on the front burner. The money in campaigns piling up in Nevada for question one.
Pitching jobs in the economy. I sit down with Hillary Clinton's surrogate Kathleen Sebelius to talk about Clinton's plans.
A lot of Republicans that I talk to are just nervous that it's going to be kind of constant chaos from now until Election Day.
And Face the Nation host John Dickerson joins us to talk about this week in presidential politics.
From 8 News Now, this is Politics Now with Steve Sebelius and Patrick Walker.
The debate over universal gun background checks here in Nevada is heating up this week. Thanks for joining us. I'm Patrick Walker.
And I'm Steve Sebelius. The National Rifle Association opened an office in Las Vegas to fight against question one on the November ballot. The group says background check fees will increase the cost of gun ownership for law-abiding citizens, and they claim it'll limit their freedoms.
We won't be silenced, even though Michael Bloomberg will have plenty of money. He'll outspend us in this campaign. We'll do our best to stay competitive. But having field offices where Nevadans can come in, sign up, volunteer to help, and call other voters and educate them on this initiative, I think is very important.
And the NRA, which is certainly not hurting for money itself, is putting up some serious cash, too. The group is launching a $3 million television ad campaign here, and the theme is pretty clear.
An out-of-touch hypocrite. She'd leave you defenseless.
The NRA says it'll keep the field office open through November. The group also has a second office up in Reno.
And not to be outdone, the pro-question one crowd held rallies in Nevada this week as well. Survivors of domestic violence voiced their support for the initiative at Safe House in Henderson. The ballot measure would require a background check be performed on private party gun sales. Annette Scott with Safe House supports the measure.
We're not saying people shouldn't own guns. I'm a registered gun owner. We just don't want people that shouldn't have guns to have them.
The Brady campaign was also in town this week campaigning for question one. Both sides, of course, well funded. Michael Bloomberg's Everytown for Gun Safety has already spent millions of dollars here to get the initiative on the ballot and push for its passage.
And Nevada's Republican governor, Brian Sandoval, waded into the issue this week as well. The governor's spokeswoman says he opposes the background check initiative, saying it won't keep guns out of the hands of criminals, and that he's concerned it'll restrict the rights of law-abiding Nevadans. That position is not a big surprise. The governor vetoed a similar bill after the 2013 legislature.
All right, Steve. Well, Everytown, of course, spending a bunch of money to get this on the ballot, and the most recent polls have showed it does have a good chance of passing now that the NRA is dumping millions of their own into it. Does that affect it at all?
I think the poll numbers will move. It still remains overwhelmingly popular. As far as Sandoval's objections go, as a former federal judge, he knows background checks have been passed by Congress, reviewed and approved by the courts, so people aren't losing their rights. And as far as keeping guns out of the hands of criminals, the FBI reports that federal background checks alone have kept 1.3 million people since 1998 from getting a gun. So some people quibble with those numbers, say there might be inaccurate, but a goodly number of people are being stopped. So it's also effective. So both the governor's objections, I think, are belied by the facts.
Well, new polling by CBS News and YouGov shows a tight presidential race, at least right here in Nevada. The poll shows a 2-point overall lead for Clinton here in Nevada among likely voters. 43%, as you can see, to 41%. Trump leads among white voters here by about 15 points, but Clinton leads among Latinos by 54 points. That same poll shows a tight Senate race as well. Republican Congressman Joe Heck leads Democratic former Attorney General Catherine Cortez Masto by a 3-point bump, 38 to 35%. Now, there are still, however, a lot of undecided voters in that race.
And now we follow the money. This week, looking at the campaign dollars in the presidential race. Republican candidate Donald Trump says his campaign took in $80 million in July. $64 million was from donations that Trump says he matched. He has $74 million cash on hand. And Hillary Clinton raised $63 million in July. It was her most successful month so far. She has $58 million in the bank, which suggests she will expand her financial lead over Trump. And not to be forgotten, Libertarian candidate Gary Johnson says he's raised $1 million in the last 2 weeks. He's trying to raise $1.5 million by August 15th in what he's calling a 15 for 15 money bomb. Johnson's trying to hit 15% in the polls in an attempt to break into the official presidential debates.
Well, both presidential candidates, both of the major ones, dealing with issues other than policy plans. Steve had a chance to talk with Face the Nation host John Dickerson about that.
The issue of Donald Trump's tax returns. Presidential candidates traditionally release their tax returns. When they're reluctant to do so, it becomes an issue. It became an issue for Mitt Romney in the 2012 race. Donald Trump steadfastly refusing to do that. Is that going to be one of the things that vexes his campaign?
Well, it depends. You know, this is something we've kind of been over a few times. I think the Clinton campaign is obviously trying to make it an issue. It is a tradition of presidential candidates to release their returns. Certainly, if the shoe were on the other foot, Donald Trump would be making a lot of it. It's really just a question of how the stories are going to bounce in the next couple of weeks. The reasons the Clinton campaign wants to prosecute this idea is that they want to promote the notion that there's something to hide, that Donald Trump isn't all that he says he is. That's an economic message. That's what they're saying about his economic proposals, that people may think he's on their side, but that he's not. So I don't know how much this will dog him. I don't think people really care that much. I mean, I think they care more about their salaries and their future. And so I'm sure we'll end up talking about something else.
Yeah. So, and speaking of that, on the other side, speaking of things to hide and potential cover-ups, the New York Times story this week about emails showing a possible link between the State Department and the Clinton Foundation. Is that going to be a problem for Hillary Clinton?
Well, the reason that might be a problem, although the specifics of it, we'll have to see whether people latch onto it or not. But it adds another pebble on the scale of the central concern people have about Hillary Clinton, which is that she's not honest, that she's got her own set of rules, that there's always something kind of going on behind the scenes. And even though nobody's alleging that anything illegal was done here at all, the easy relationship between public and private and the kind of larger Clinton operation is something that gets at what is her big weakness. And so that's why it might be something that stays a little more than just something that's in the news cycle, or that just reanimates this challenge that she has to her campaign.
Well, you can watch Face the Nation on CBS every Sunday morning at 8:30 a.m. right here on 8 News Now. I'm reading Dickerson's book, Whistle Stop, about presidential campaign history. If you're interested in that subject, you should check it out. And you can watch our full interview on LasVegasNow.com.
Always an interesting conversation with John Dickerson. We're promoting violence or not.
I don't care who you are. I don't care what party you're supporting. Those comments have no place in today's day and age.
Coming up, our face-off panel takes on Trump's comments about Second Amendment people stopping Clinton.
Well, I think she definitely feels that we need to actually change the rules so corporations are not rewarded for shipping their jobs overseas.
And I sit down with Clinton surrogate and former Health and Human Services Secretary Kathleen Sebelius to talk about Clinton's job plan.
Are we ready?
You know Charlie's line where he goes,
all that
and all that matters.
So I'm saying this? Do you want me to do it as like an impression of you?
I'm Charlie Rose. All that.
Pause.
And all that matters.
Ooh, that was good.
Can I be all that?
All that?
And all that matters. Right here on 8 News Now.
All that and all that matters. All that matters.
Right after 8 News Now, Good Day.
On CBS this morning.
All that matters to Southern Nevada. Weekday mornings on 8 News Now.
We're number in the nation.
Tobin Fiat Alfa Romeo is classically trained to save you more. That's why we're number one in the nation. The all-new 2017 Fiat 124 Spider is here. Now only $24,999. Even lease the 500X for just $169 a month, or take $8,000 off new 500s.
Tobin Fiat Alfa Romeo, number one in the nation.
When you have debt problems, you need to look for someone who can listen to your problems, who can understand them, who can help guide you through the process.
We are a full-service debt relief law firm, and bankruptcy is not your only solution.
We don't believe in gimmicks to get you into the door. What we believe in is honest, clear advice that can help you resolve your issues.
If you've got credit card bills, payday loans, or medical debt, call us now, 1-800-ERASE-DEBT.
At our free consultations, you're going to meet with myself or my partner. you're going to leave feeling better about your situation.
Welcome back to Politics Now.
Gaffes or perceived gaffes surrounded talk of both presidential candidates this week, but there was some policy that was revealed. In Detroit, Donald Trump said he is focusing on his economic plan on overhauling the tax code and tearing up trade agreements.
Under my plan, no American company will pay more than 15% of their business income in taxes. In other words, we're reducing your taxes from 35% to 15%.
And Hillary Clinton is also pitching her jobs plan. That's right here. She had former Health and Human Services Secretary Kathleen Sebelius in town campaigning for her this week. I sat down with the former secretary to learn more. You're here to talk about Hillary Clinton's job plan. What she is calling the largest investment in terms of job creation since World War II. So tell us a little bit about what she's talking about there.
Well, Steve, I think Secretary Clinton wants to build off the 15 million new jobs that have been created over the last 8 years with President Obama coming out of the worst recession since the Great Depression. And month in and month out, there has been strong job growth. So she really has a couple of areas that she thinks are critical to make sure that that growth continues. Infrastructure. I think it is really shameful that the Republicans in Congress have not come together and passed a bill to build roads and bridges, to update airports. It would mean a lot in Nevada. It would mean a lot in states across this country. She has a massive infrastructure investment plan that would be as large as anything since President Eisenhower, a Kansas president, was built the interstate highway system.
She's also talked about cutting taxes for small business.
Correct.
To as part of an effort to cut the red tape, make it easier to start and run a small business. Donald Trump, we saw his tax plan revealed this week. It's much friendlier to corporations. It calls for cutting the corporate tax rate from 35 to 15%. Does Secretary Clinton think we should cut the corporate tax rate at least to repatriate some of the money that's being held now offshore?
Well, I think she definitely feels that we need to actually change the rules so corporations are not rewarded for shipping their jobs overseas, that they can't take the benefits of that. And I live in a state of Kansas. It is a majority Republican state. Our governor has actually implemented the tax plan that Republicans find so enamoring, including Donald Trump, who's now embraced the traditional Republican tax plan. Our state has been devastated by a tax plan that cuts high income earnings, that cuts the corporate tax rate, that gets rid of taxes on businesses. We have the lowest job growth of any surrounding states, well below the country. We have cut higher education, K through 12 education. We no longer invest in science and technology at the state level. We have had to cancel highway projects and plans because the state revenue has been so miserable coming in. The state has been downgraded 3 times in bond ratings. So if anybody wants to see what the Republican tax plan would look like up close and personal, look at Kansas, because it's in place. And every economist, every analyst who looks at the Kansas plan said it's a major disaster.
And of course, we wouldn't have the former Health and Human Services Secretary on without asking her, of course, about Obamacare. You can watch that on our website at lasvegasnow.com.
All right, Steve. Trump's main argument is he's going to make the economy really go. But with his other comments overshadowing that, does that detract from his argument at all?
Yeah, I think everybody has forgotten what his tax plan was by this time. But, you know, I was struck as I read through it by how conventional it was. You know, Trump is supposed to be this out-of-the-box guy who is no slave to convention. But his tax plan was so similar to the Republican plans that we've seen, cutting corporate tax rates, cutting tax rates at the very top, trickle-down economics. There wasn't really a lot new there, and it was pretty much something any traditional Republican, from Ronald Reagan to the present day, would like.
Simplify the tax code, all of those things involved is something we've been hearing for decades.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, the comments that overshadowed that economic speech are the subject of this week's Face-Off.
I think that the people who think that he was threatening her are absolutely delusional.
Up next, our panel debates what exactly Donald Trump meant by, quote, Second Amendment people. Stay with us.
After a history-making opening week.
Welcome to Excitement Headquarters.
The final rounds of the Jeopardy College Championship are here.
You three have been burning up the bottom of the board.
Which started with 15 of America's brightest college students, goes from 9 players down to only 3.
One of these 3 players will be $100,000 richer.
They're playing for school pride and $100,000. The Jeopardy College Championship, the final rounds.
This week at 6:30, only on 8 News Now.
Let's get a swirl.
Why are car buyers coming from all across the Southwest to buy their new vehicle from Tobin Dodge? Because Tobin Dodge is the #1 Dodge dealer in the nation.
Hey, it's shop at Tobin Dodge Superstore, and the summer clearance is going on now.
New Darts, $11,889. New Journeys, $15,889. People all over the U.S. are coming to save thousands on their next new car. Darts, $11,889. Journeys, $15,889.
That's Tobin Dodge in the Valley Auto Mall, #1 for a reason.
Monday on Good Day, business seems to be booming in North Las Vegas right now.
We're sitting down with the city's mayor to find out how the new restaurants and stores will help increase Northtown's economy.
Plus, you may be grinding your teeth in your sleep and you don't even know about it.
The health problems it can cause and the damage it'll do to your pearly whites.
And the weekend will be hot, 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 and it doesn't look like much of a cool down as we head back to work on Monday. I'll have your Weather Now forecast to help keep you cool Monday on Good Day.
You're watching Politics Now.
Well, Donald Trump's comments about, quote, Second Amendment people, unquote, stopping Hillary Clinton set off a firestorm this week. Our passionate face-off panel, KXNT radio host Alan Stock from the right and Battleborn Progress Executive Director Annette Magnus from the left, debate exactly what he meant.
Well, one of the headlines this week for Donald Trump is his Second Amendment comment, essentially saying that, well, the Second Amendment people can take care of, could do something if Hillary Clinton was elected. So how do you take that comment, first off, Annette?
Well, I was pretty horrified. I don't care who you are. I don't care what party you're supporting. Those comments have no place in today's day and age. I think it's totally uncalled for. It's totally unprecedented. Nobody should be doing that. And, you know, one of the Secret Service tweets that came out was that they're now looking into it because those are the things that incite violence. Those are the things that cause violence in our society. And this hateful rhetoric that Donald Trump has been spewing is unacceptable. And we need to call that out. Again, I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican. If it were a Democrat doing that to a Republican, I would feel the exact same way. We have no place in our society for that kind of language. And frankly, it just encourages people to do stupid things.
Is it the Sarah Palin treatment is the focus just on Donald Trump? Is this being blown out of proportion? How do you see it, Alan?
Well, I'm glad you said about if Democrats did it too, because there have now been threats that are being made to the Trump campaign as a result of comments made by Hillary Clinton and some of the others.
Too.
So, I mean, this is what's coming on from, we knew it would be a raucous campaign. Number one, he never suggested in any way, shape, or form that anyone pick up a gun and harm her in any way at all. What he suggested was, and what I've said for a long time, and I stand by this, and so do his people, stand behind this 100%. We want the Second Amendment people, the gun people, my people. I belong to the NRA. I want these folks to come on out and vote big time, and I want them to vote for the Senate people and for the president and everyone else that we want to make sure we get in there so we can get the right Supreme Court justices in that will defend our Second Amendment.
That was not what he was talking about.
Defend our Second Amendment right to be able to carry arms.
That is one thing. Defending your Second Amendment right is one thing. What he was saying was using the Second Amendment against Hillary Clinton. Those were his words. It wasn't about protecting your rights, and it was in the context of the Supreme Court and saying people were going to use their Second Amendments against Hillary Clinton.
And that's all,
what he said.
Listen to me, and that is all he said. Use the Second Amendment. You know, there was a woman there, a 72-year-old woman. This was in the RJ, by the way. 72-year-old woman by the name of Sarah Smith, a retiree. She attended the rally in Wilmington, North Carolina, and I've watched that tape over and over again. And regarding Trump's Second Amendment remark, she says this. 72-year-old woman says, in no way was he threatening Hillary. Anybody who thinks so is delusional.
Okay.
And I think that the people who think that he was threatening her are absolutely delusional.
So everybody in the media and everybody who is sane, who thinks this is wrong, is delusional now
yes,
somehow?
I would say no.
Okay.
No, I would say yes. The Democrat
delusional
media.
People are the ones who are going to actually take up their guns and go after Hillary Clinton.
I would say
that is delusional.
I would say the Second Amendment, the Democrat media definitely coming out and trying to re-skew this whole thing. You have most people who are Trump people, and you have some people and Fox and talk radio who understand that what he was saying was not as articulate as it should have been, but he never threatened her, and there's nothing that you can prove that he threatened her, and even they came out immediately afterwards.
As a responsible gun owner, as both of us being responsible gun owners, you should be appalled by what he said.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely.
Absolutely not. No, what he was saying was, and again, I'm going to repeat, that we should get all the Second Amendment gun people out.
That's not what he said, Alan.
Big time.
That's not what he said.
But that's exactly what he said. That's exactly what he meant.
No, that's not what he said.
And his campaign clarified it. Listen to me.
It is irresponsible for you to even say this.
His campaign clarified right afterwards what I'm saying. You're not listening to them. You're listening to what we want.
I don't listen to people who run campaigns on hate and violence. I'm not going to listen to that.
I understand.
What came out of his mouth is what came out of his mouth.
I understand what you're talking about hate and violence, because Hillary Clinton and the Democrats are running a campaign of hate and violence, and that's when threats are now coming in to Donald Trump as a result of the hate.
Give me some examples.
Well, you can watch the rest of that debate along with a spirited argument about the recreational marijuana ballot initiative and the latest shadowy conspiracy theory on LasVegasNow.com. Patrick?
Plenty of fireworks to watch on that one, Steve. All right, it's time for the race now, where we go over some of the other big political stories this week. Nevada Treasurer Dan Schwartz is setting his sights on the payday loan industry. The changes he wants to see include a statewide database that prevents people from borrowing too much at any one time, 25% of their annual income, interest rate caps, and cooling off period between loans. He says the final details of that bill are still being worked out.
I would say almost with certainty you will see a bill from the state treasurer's office. What the legislature does with it is, of course, up to them. Whether the governor signs it is up to him.
Well, the final public town halls are done, and the reorganization of the Clark County School District is moving forward. Under the proposed plan, each school would be led by a principal and team of teachers, staff, and parents. This group would be in charge of hiring, services, and budgeting. That final plan, by the way, is in front of legislative committees next week. And we are still waiting for a Supreme Court decision at the state level on the Education Savings Account or school choice bill. But we are getting a clearer picture on how much those lawsuits are now costing us. Nevada Nevada officials asked for another $125,000 to defend that program. The Attorney General's office has already paid an outside law firm, Bancroft Associates, $420,000. So that puts the tab at over $500,000 so far. The ACLU criticized the Attorney General's office for not handling that lawsuit in-house. So Steve, that's a pretty penny now, up over $500,000. 18 other states, however, are waiting on this decision. Is that why they went ahead and went with that outside firm?
Well, I think they went with the outside firm because they wanted the best defense that they could get. And, you know, I disagree with the Attorney General's position on this, but I think the state does deserve the most vigorous, well-crafted defense that it could get. Paul Clement's a great lawyer. He's practiced before the U.S. Supreme Court, so I think there's really nothing wrong with the state doing that, although it does come at a high price. We know when that decision comes down that the state will have availed itself of every available argument.
Well, it's going to come down on a Thursday. It didn't come out this week. Of course, we'll be keeping an eye on it. We'll have much more when it happens. Stay with us. Politics Now continues after this.
Good day, Las Vegas. Can you feel the morning? Yeah, the sun's coming up, and I don't know why, but there's a smile on my face. So let's get it started. Turn it up, turn it on, keep the morning moving right along. Yeah, I'm starting up my day. You make it feel alright. News now, good day. Starting up my day. Don't you know I'm ready for whatever comes my way? I'm starting up my day. So go ahead and bring it, turn it on, turn it up. Yeah, I think I'll have another cup. Yeah, I'm starting up my day. You make it feel alright. 8 News now, good day. Don't you know I'm ready for whatever comes my way? I'm starting up my day with a good day.
What's trending? Pocket Monster apps, superhero movies. But the hottest trend is paying invoice at Prestige Chrysler Jeep Dodge. Right now, lease new Ram Quad Cabs only $179 a month. New Ram 1500 Bighorn Crew Cab, take a flat $14,000 off. Don't miss invoice pricing during the summer clearance event. Ram Quad Cab, just $179 a month. Ram Bighorn Crew Cab, $14,000 off. Call, click, or come in to Prestige Chrysler Jeep Dodge on Centennial Center Boulevard.
I'm attorney Glenn Lerner. Make one call, that's all to 877-1500, and I'll make sure you get every dollar you deserve.
877-1500. Ever wanted to work for 8 News Now? Search our recent job postings under Work For Us at LasVegasNow.com. Your exclusive Weather Now forecast, rated most accurate by Weather Rate. Every day with Sherry, Ted, and Katie on 8 News Now.
Well, with the start of school just a few weeks away, this is a back-to-school edition of What to Watch, where we fill you in on the stories we're keeping an eye on next week. On Tuesday, a legislative committee will take up the plans to reorganize the school district. They could also approve and finalize the plans given to them by the committee on that day. Changes would not actually happen until the following school year. And a last-minute Supreme Court decision on the education savings account is expected. 8,000 parents have already signed up and are in a state of limbo, so many of them will be left unsure what to do if we don't get that decision before the start of school.
Thanks for watching Politics Now. You can email us, politics@lasvegasnow.com.
We are your local election headquarters for the next year. We'll see you next week.